right, folks, it's that time. Let's get into it. I'm very excited for this. Damien is just a fantastic guy. He's got so much information to share that I don't want to take up too much time with me, who many of you have seen for years and years now. So let's get into it. For those who are new to Experts.com or who have not been to one of our webinars before, I'm Nick Rishwain. I'm the Vice President of Client Relations and Development. I generally put on our webinars. I am the host. And today we've got a really special host for you. Damien Riehl is a technology lawyer who clerked for state and federal judges and litigated for 15 years and helped companies with cybersecurity. He works at vLex, and I'll have you go into that a little bit more in a minute, Damien. He's at vLex. He currently uses generative AI to extract and generate valuable insights from a data set of 1 billion legal documents, and this is worldwide. And he's also part of the SALI Alliance, I believe one of the founders. SALI is the legal data standard that he helps lead. Damien has built and expanded an ontology of over 17,000 legal tags, effectively standardizing legal data. I'm gonna bring that down for a second for those who aren't legal techies. That's categorizing categorizing topics in law for more structured data so that we all are talking on the same wavelength in our digital legal platforms. Is that a very simple way to describe that, Damien?
So we're collecting things like medical malpractice lawsuit, negligence lawsuit, and we're collecting 18,000 things that matter to the substantive law. Give me all the motions to dismiss for breach of contract in the Southern District of New York. Give me all the slip and fall cases for this kind of thing. So once you tag up all that data, and now Thomson Reuters and LexisNexis and iManage and NetDocuments and the firms and their clients can all interoperate using those same tags.
Very good for efficiency, absolutely necessary for communications within the legal world. Also, in August of 2023, Elon Musk posted about Damien, "This guy rocks." Now, I've encouraged Damien to also say that Nick Rishwain and Elon Musk have both said those things, but it hasn't worked its way in.
I still need to update my bio.
Yeah,
my
please.
my buddy said that Elon Musk has horrible judgment in all areas except for one. This one maybe he got right.
This one he got right. Great, Damien. Give us a little bit about you at vLex and what you do, and a little bit about your litigation experience, and we'll hop right into it.
Sure. I litigated for about 15 years with a big firm called Robbins Kaplan. I represented Best Buy and much of their commercial litigation, represented victims of Bernie Madoff. I helped sue JP Morgan over the mortgage-backed security crisis. So I did the high-stakes bet the company litigation. I've also been a coder since 1985. So I have the law plus technology background. So in 2015, I pitched Thomson Reuters. I said, here's a legal tech that I think can change the world. You should build it and hire me. And they were stupid enough to hire me. So I led a team of 100 programmers and 50 lawyers building this really big thing for TR. Left that cool job to do another cool job in cybersecurity, where the biggest thing I did was Facebook hired me and my company to investigate Cambridge Analytica. So I spent a year of my life on Facebook's campus with their data scientists and my former FBI, CIA, NSA folks. Left that cool job to do my current cool job with vLex, where we have 1 billion legal documents, cases, statutes, regulations, motions, briefs, pleadings, where I'm doing data science on those, extracting the SALI tags. Give me all the motions to dismiss for breach of contract in the Southern District of New York. Give me all the med mal cases in District X for this. Extracting that data and running large language models across them, saying what are the arguments that are most likely to win for this judge, for this cause of action in these jurisdictions. So these are exciting times for those who have that data, and we are one of only 3 companies in the world that have that data in the United States. Thomson Reuters, LexisNexis, and us have comprehensive data. But worldwide, we have 100 countries worldwide, and really we're the only game in town that has that worldwide data too.
Yeah, wonderful. And you've had some experience in the forensics and expert witnessing space through some of your past experience. So Damien is quite knowledgeable in the issues of artificial intelligence. And because of that, I've asked him to be here to kind of give experts what can it do for you in your practice? how might it be used against you in your practice, how you can use it in your day-to-day, and we're going to have a nice informal discussion on that, probably for about 45 minutes. Certainly put your questions in the Q&A. We'll try and take questions as we go here and there, and we'll leave some time hopefully for just Q&A towards the end, 30 or 45 minutes there, because I'm certain many of you will have questions about this topic, since it is all you read about, and for good reason today. Damien, when we spoke in preparation for this about using an LLM, or a large language model, we came up with kind of 6 different outline items here. And one of them that you mentioned was, and maybe we'll just jump into that, as an expert, shadowboxing both themselves and shadowboxing an opposing expert through using ChatGPT or Claude or one of those. Can you tell us a little bit about your idea of shadowboxing?
Sure. So the idea with shadowboxing is I want to find weaknesses in my arguments before the other side does. So the idea is that, and I'm going to already share my screen if that's okay,
Yes.
to be able to give an example of how lawyers use shadowboxing. And so here is a tool that you could imagine I want to be able to say here, give me all of the arguments that are on the other side of this. So I want to oppose an argument here to be able to say, what are the, this argument here is that defendant's recording of a conversation without consent violates privacy laws. What if I want to find the other side of that argument? So now I could be able to click on this and be able to say, Vincent's going to go through and find all potential things that could be flaws in this argument. So this argument could be opposing counsel's argument. That's option number 1. Or this could be my argument that I want to shadowbox with myself. So there's an exception to say that if you give consent, then it's not violating privacy law. If you're in one-party consent state, that is not a violation. If it's in the business context, maybe it's not a violation. If there's really no damages, no harm, then maybe it's in the public interest. Maybe I'm an investigative reporter that's doing this, right? Now this is giving me a whole bunch of shadowboxing tips that as a lawyer, as I draft this, want to be able to shadowbox and counteract each of these arguments before the other side makes them. And as you can see right now, we're finding actual cases, actual statutes, and actual regulations that are on the other side of this argument. And we'll do the old baking show trick of doing something that that's already been done. Now here are cases, statutes, and regulations that are on the other side of that argument. And now I can bolster my brief to say, Your Honor, this is true. Now the other side might argue that SimTel communications applies, but that's illogical. Let me tell you why. So this is a way you can cut the other side off at the pass before they've had a chance to argue it in the first place. So this is applied to legal arguments, but you can imagine for experts, you could do the same thing. You could be able to say, here is my expert report. So I could be able to say, here is the public version of an expert report of Ken Van Leer, and the lawsuit is from the FTC versus Whole Foods Market. I assume this is a antitrust. I literally just pulled it up, so I don't know what kind of case it is. But what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go to ChatGPT. If I do ChatGPT, and now I'm going to upload this document, and I'm going to say, find logical inconsistencies in this. Okay. So you're an expert. You are an expert in antitrust. So am I. I need to find logical inconsistencies for this document. I need to find, please be thorough. And then it's very important. Actually, we'll do it this way. So now it's going to go through this PDF, and this is a way I can shadowbox myself. Imagine that I'm Kent Van Leer, and I want to be able to see maybe holes that the other side can poke into it. Quoting sample inconsistencies, the report acknowledges that use of the quota sampling doesn't represent the actual proportion. It can lead to erroneous extrapolation. So I realize, oh, maybe I should maybe temper that acknowledgement, or maybe write it away in some other ways. So this is
which would be So before submitting your report to the attorney you're working for, maybe you want to tone down the way that you do that acknowledgement there. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so and you can imagine running this once, you could imagine running it 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, and each time it's going to give you different things. And so you could just decide where your threshold is when you reach the point of diminishing returns, then you stop doing it. So this is just one of hundreds of use cases. And the funny part about large language models is, unlike other technologies, say unlike blockchain, where often blockchain is a solution in search of a problem, right? It solves, it's really looking for a problem to solve, blockchain is, but large language models are the solutions to so many problems that we keep discovering them every day. And so really, I just heard of someone they put a Post-it note on their monitor saying, can AI help with this? So that they're reminded for every single task that they do, they're like, oh yeah, large language models can actually help with this too.
Yeah, I've actually, a friend did the same thing. Recently, he did use ChatGPT daily in a Post-it note on his computer to remind him, just to get used to doing it and seeing how it might help. And for my experts out there, the shadow boxing is a great plan that Damien's brought up. It's a great plan for you to do as yourself or as the opposing expert. The other thing, the simplest thing you can do with it is have it help you in doing that first draft of your report. Like that's just a simple aspect, right? Put it in ChatGPT, say, I need to write a report about this, ... It's antitrust. Get some input, get some ideas. Don't copy and paste, but use it in your assistance on that first draft. I always forget, and I'm not sure entirely our level of members and where they're feeling most comfortable in this. So that is like entry level 101. Start using it that way till you get more comfortable to get up to shadow boxing.
Yeah, there's a question in there from one of the attendees. How do you prevent or account for hallucinations? And that's a really good question. Most of the discussion is around the public sphere, saying you can't trust them because they're hallucinatory. There's 2 ways to use a large language model. Way number 1 is to ask ChatGPT, give me a bio of Nick Rishwain, and it's going to hallucinate all over the place. That is because it's pulling from the entire internet, and it's probably going to make some stuff up with Nick Rishwain. That's option 1, which is a bad idea. Option number 2 is to say, here are 20 articles about Nick Rishwain. Summarize those in a bio. The rate of hallucination there is going to be next to 0. And because of that, that's because it's pulling from ground truth. It's pulling from actual data. So you can see here that what I didn't do just a moment ago was just ask ChatGPT out of the box.
Right.
What I did do was upload a PDF based on ground truth. That is my report. And you can imagine, in addition to that one PDF, I could have said, here are all the 3 other studies that I referred to in this. And then say, based on this one report and the 3 studies, give me maybe ways that I could improve it. So because you now have ground truth, these
Yes.
4 PDFs, then the rate of hallucination will be close to 0. That's because it actually now has things to work with. So you can think of it almost like giving a closed book exam, asking ChatGPT out of the box, versus an open book exam.
I like
Here's
that.
the books to be able to think of. Open book exams, humans will do that better 100% of the time, and the large language models will do open book exams 100% of the time better.
I like that a lot. Excellent example. Then and then you did have it. So they may want to do it with particular aspects of literature that an expert needs to review, right? So they may want to upload all that and then in their report writing or their first drafts or whatever, get the assistance there. What other, is there any other aspect there that you think might be helpful, say chat? And I do want to mention when Damien was showing vLex, which is a company he works with, that is, they have their own large language model for legal community. Chat GPTs probably for independent consultants, Damien, probably more fiscally responsible, or because would you say it's more likely at $20 a month that'll be of most assistance to
That's right.
to them?
Yeah, so I would guess, yeah, if you're an expert that is not a lawyer, that is, you may just need the scientific literature, say, for example, for your corpus of knowledge. So
Right.
for that, you could use ChatGPT out of the box.
Gotcha.
If you instead if you need the regulations from the EU, or if you need the regulations from California, or New York, et cetera, if you need the case that was decided yesterday, then go with vLex and do that. But if you don't need those things, large language model out of the box is just fine.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. vLex is really impressive, but many of my independent consultants, it may be overwhelmed for them. Then you had we did the report writing. We then talked about finding inconsistencies or inaccuracies, fallacies, flaws in the expert report, or flaws in depositions testimony. How did you had some views as to how we could do that, inaccuracies and flaws in logic?
Sure. So that is, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and you could imagine just following up now. It's given me a whole bunch of these logical inconsistencies. That's what I asked for question number one. And then I can follow up by saying, now find factual inconsistencies. And now you could be able to get a whole bunch of different answers. And if these aren't tripping your trigger, you could be able to then say, find more, find more, find more, and just keep asking for more and more. So this is, think of it almost like a research assistant that never gets tired. And so the research assistant, might take hours to do what you're seeing on your screen right now. And then if you ask it at 2 a.m., you're going to have to wait till 8 a.m., right? But the large language model doesn't get tired of being asked 100 times, and it can be up at 2 a.m. with you. So this is, are you going to accept every one of your human assistants suggestions? No. Are you going to accept every one of your large language model assistants suggestions? No. But is it a way better start and a way better to ideate? Yes. When I worked for Facebook, Facebook hired me to investigate Cambridge Analytica. All of my Facebook data scientists that I work with said, the interesting question is never question number one. The interesting question is always, oh, isn't that interesting? Now let's go into question number 2, and question number 5, and question number 20. And so think of this almost like a better question number 1. That you can use as jumping off point to say, oh gosh, that's true. Actually, maybe I want to be able to, dig deeper into the conflicting statements. Say, maybe find other conflicting statements that are like this one.
Excellent. Rick Hammond's got a great question here. Would it be correct to say that uploading a draft expert report on ChatGPT makes that report discoverable and might violate a protective order that is in place?
Oh, that is a really good question. I've not seen any cases assessing that question, and so let's move into how do you answer the question like he's just asked. One way to do that is using maybe if you hypothetically had access to 1 billion legal documents, all the cases, statutes, and regulations around the world, you could be able to ask a question like that. So, does uploading a draft report on ChatGPT, if we say we make it one word, make that report discoverable? And might that violate a protective order? So now we're going to be able to ask that question across all, I'm going to do this here, all federal and states. And then I'm also going to be able to run this as a 50-state survey, which I'm going to do here while we're on the phone, on the meeting. So now I'm going to ask this there. And so now it's running a 50-state survey on this question. And it's smart enough to break it into 2 questions, question number 1 and then question number 2. So this is now asking, it's going to write 2 memoranda, and then this is going to write a 50-state survey here, and now it's going to give me a 100 memoranda survey, 50-state survey for question 1, 50-state survey for question number 2, and we'll see how those shake out. So we will know the answer to that question, Rick, in exactly 5 minutes.
Excellent, excellent. And I believe there are settings in ChatGPT that prevent it from storing information after you delete the chat as well. I want to take a stab at that question while we're getting the real answer. So my guess is, Rick, that anything, it would be no more discoverable in ChatGPT than it would be on your own computer. And if it's not discoverable there, then it wouldn't be. That's going to be my guess. Now let's see what the answer is when vLex covers that for us.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. So one could imagine that is it discoverable if you give it to your human assistant? So you can almost think of this as an agent of yours, the large language model as an agent, or saving it to your hard drive versus on the ChatGPT. These are 2 just repositories of documents, and so I think that's a good analogy that Nick just made.
Yeah, thank you. We were also I may have jumped right over on the fallacies and flaws in logic. When did we cover that, or did I jump into Rick's question too quick there?
No, I think so. What I did is I think I jumped the gun where I shared that as question number one for here, so you can see that I said you're an expert for this. I need to find logical fallacies,
Oh,
logical.
okay.
Oh, actually, logical inconsistencies. Let's go. Let's do. I actually did not do fallacies, so let's do a copy and then paste here. Now find logical fallacies. Logical fallacies. Please be thorough. And a fallacy, of course, is you have the straw man fallacy. You can state that Ms. Conway's survey cannot be used to determine specific, et cetera. You have false cause. So the weird part and cool part about large language models is they know what all the logical fallacies are. They know the straw man. They know false cause. And so they're able to apply the concept of a logical fallacy with the ground truth of the text that you receive. So yeah, so you can, this is another way you can shadow box either with yourself, option number one, or you can pick apart the other side, the other experts' report by finding their fallacies.
Excellent, excellent. And while that's going there, it looks like while ChatGPT is answering those, one of the other use cases that Damien and I discussed was deposition questions and or direct and cross for trial prep or deposition prep as something that experts may want to use a ChatGPT or similar type of large language model.
Yeah, so this is, while this is coming, I'm going to say, now pretend that you're opposing counsel, and you want to, you'll be deposing this expert. Please draft a list of 20 questions to ask this expert in a deposition.
This would be great for our experts out there. We don't want to overburden ChatGPT there for a second, but getting some preliminary ideas of the questions you may be asked, especially for those of you who are new to expert witnessing. This may be really great preparation for you to get an idea about what's going to be asked at a deposition or what's going to be asked in trial. Claude that Damien has just pulled up on his screen. Claude is another large language model by Anthropic, similar to ChatGPT. So he's going to show you this, an example to use this as well. So I think this is an excellent use for you to do your early preparations. Now, counsel who you're working for should also help you, give you an idea of how things are going to go, but they generally don't have tons of time. So this is a great way for you to get 20 questions and then create 20 more, as you see Damien's doing over on Claude.
And so that you can imagine, this is people say, when I was a litigator, one of my senior partners would say, the most valuable time that I bill my client for is the time where I lean back at my desk and I think. And it's through that thinking that is the most valuable time. So one can imagine if I lean back and think for 1 hour, I might come up with 4 or 5 good ideas. In now 10 seconds, it's come up with 40 ideas. And now I'm going to say, now do 20 more. And so in 1 hour, I can come up with literally 1,000 ideas. So how many of these 4 ideas I would think about this way? Maybe those are all contained in these 200 or 300 ideas that we're cranking out. So I think this is another use case that you're like, this is a solution to so many problems. We keep discovering them. Yes, this is a different world for those who know the way to be able to use this.
This is great. And here's the first question there on Claude was Dr. Van Leer, can you please summarize your main critiques of Ms. Conway's survey methodology? So, you can put this in with whether it's medical malpractice, engineering, anything like that, you can get an idea of what you may have to be or what you may be asked, and then you could later on go back and say, and give yourself the answers that you would give, but then do 20 more questions and really refine your presentation for deposition.
And if you want to get super fancy, you would put all this into a large language model like ChatGPT that has a voice communication. So on your phone, you could be able to say, here's a list of questions. Ask me these questions as though you're an opposing counsel.
Ooh, I like it.
And you can actually shadow box in real time. And you don't need a human to be able to moot court these things. You actually can moot court with the large language model.
Excellent. That's excellent. We do have a couple of good questions here. Ben asks, how do you handle confidentiality when uploading a document on ChatGPT platform?
Yeah, so you can imagine there's ChatGPT, and then there are tools that are baking in ChatGPT and Claude, et cetera. So I think if you upload something to ChatGPT, you have to say, will they train on your data? And will they keep that data confidential or not? So you have to trust OpenAI, where I think they've said, and don't take my word for this, look at their terms and conditions as of this moment, which I don't know what they are.
Right.
But it's my understanding that if you pay them money, then they will not train on your data. That's my understanding as of a few months ago. That may have changed, may have not. This is not legal advice, but one could imagine that if you're paying for the thing, then they won't train on it. If you're using the free version of the thing, then you're the product. You're not the customer.
Right.
So that's if you're using a foundational model itself. If you are using a tool that's backed with foundational models, say like vLex, you have to trust that is vLex not training on your data? And the answer is that's right. vLex is not training on your data. And then does vLex have agreements with OpenAI and Microsoft and others so that they will not be training on your data? And the answer is yes, we do have those agreements. So you have to trust that tool and trust that they have agreements with their tool and ask for confidences through contracts showing that both of those things are true.
Nabil is in the chat telling me that the paid version allows you to control exactly these issues in your settings. So, but Damien is correct in you definitely want to know this, check your terms and conditions with the tools that you're using here. Michael Lawler asks a question. Mike, this is a good question. How accurate is the data referenced by ChatGPT? Any concerns about human spin? And I think Damien sort of answered this one a little earlier when he said, if you are uploading some information to work with, that is much more accurate than if you're asking ChatGPT for the information. So you will see more hallucinations if you're just asking it to go out and based on the information that it has available, tell you an answer to something.
Yeah, and this is something that is maybe worth elucidating a little bit more. So here's, you think about, that's a big stumbling block from a lot of people saying, I don't trust large language models because of hallucinations. But here's a study from September 23 where they took human summarized a document, machine summarized a document. The study people mixed them up, gave them to human reviewers, and the human reviewers said that the humans hallucinated more than the machines. That is, the humans got the facts wrong more than the machines did. And that was in September of 2023.
Right.
And here's another study showing the same thing from April of 23, say that there's more factual inconsistencies for humans. So this is a lot like what John Dean in Watergate. When he was testifying before he knew there were tapes, he got a lot of things wrong. But he got the gist of what was being said correct. And so this is because we as humans, every time we remember something, we actually reconstitute those memories. There's a lot of psychological studies saying that this is why fish get bigger as the stories continue, because every time you remember it, it actually recreates those memories. And that's the same thing with large language models. It is constantly recreating things. It is not actually a database that's pulling from these things. So if you were to ask Noam Chomsky, one of the greatest linguists of the 20th century, tell me about that book you read in the 1960s. He's going to get a lot of things wrong, but he's kind of going to get the gist of it correct. If you then say to Noam, here's 2 pages from that book, why don't you summarize that? He's going to get that all right. And the reason he's going to get that right is because he has an open book exam. Right? He's not asking from the entire, he's asking from these particular docs. That's because large language models are not search engines. They analyze content. So if you want to be able to say, here's a closed book exam, of course you're going to get things wrong. Here's an open book exam. They're going to get things right. Give it an open book exam based on trusted, grounded in truth things.
And these are evidentiary issues that Damien's bringing up here too, right? We have the hearsay, the recollection issues, and things like that pop up in evidentiary matters. So we also see it largely for those who are in psychology who are visiting with us today or who are watching this. We have seen this over and over in eyewitness identification, right? The memory is not great. So any additional information, video, or other documentation that allows them to refresh a recollection, that is quite helpful. So the same seems to be said with ChatGPT. Sadika asks, how do we ensure accuracy? Some of the sources or articles that cited for me do not exist. Sadika, that's what we're referring to when we say hallucination. So just minutes ago, and everybody, let's stop for just a second so I can tell you this is recorded. It will be emailed to you afterwards. So we're covering a lot. So we'll repeat some of these things. Otherwise, you're going to have it delivered to you in email for you to watch the replay. You ensure accuracy the way that Damien mentioned earlier, which is uploading the documents from which you're working. So uploading the literature, you can upload a deposition summary, I suspect, and that will, assuming that you have the deposition transcripts, you can upload that and have it look for important aspects of that deposition.
One other aspect too is that we live in so let's say you've done your own research, whether it's Googling or searching through academic database or a medical database, whatever it is, you found these trusted sources. Then you upload those trusted sources into ChatGPT or other large language models and say, now reason with these. There are other things that you can do to be able to ensure a good result. And one of those is something that is called a custom instruction for large language models. And this is where I say I'm a lawyer and coder doing legal tech. That gives a context as to who I am and why I need to have things. And then ChatGPT says, how would you like to respond? And I give it these instructions. And I include, it's very important that you get this right. We live in a weird world where by saying those words, it increases the accuracy and reduces the rate of hallucinations. There have been other studies that say, if you answer this incorrectly, people will die. We're in a weird world where that actually increases the accuracy. So there are lots of ways to reduce the rate of hallucination. But again, going to that study saying that even today, the rate of hallucination is with machines still less than humans. And the question is, compared to what? We're already better than humans, and this is the worst that technology will ever be.
Excellent, excellent. Discovery assistance is something else that we talked about using it. I suspect that your answer for that would be quite similar to what we did for questions regarding deposition, questions regarding cross-examination. You could probably put in, a member might be able to put in their area of expertise, because our experts often get the questions from attorneys like, hey, what should I look for in this case? Maybe it's a new case that the attorney's not tried, a new type of case attorney has not tried before. Maybe they're a new attorney, they haven't tried any cases before, and they really need some guidance from the expert about what to ask for in discovery and in interrogatories. How do you think an expert might use this? Is it similar to the deposition prep for helping with discovery? Would they say, this is my area of expertise, and give sort of a paragraph on what they do and a bit about the case and then get some answers? What do you think the best way to do that is?
Yeah, one can imagine. So, if I'm understanding correctly, it's being able to say what are my bona fides for this area, and we'd be able to say this is what I've done. So you could imagine taking your CV or your resume, and uploading your CV and resume, uploading a bunch of papers that you've done. And so the context windows, that is the amount of text that could be ingested into these tools, is expanding increasingly.
Right.
So one could imagine just taking, hundreds or thousands of pages of your work product, your entire, portfolio, and then saying, based on this work product, I'm doing an expert work for this kind of case in this jurisdiction. Take this and now say what my bona fides are related to this type of area of law, and then it will take your CV and all of your documents and be able to make a concise summary of that.
And so that was one part. I like that, uploading the CV and publications and whatnot. That was one part of what I was asking. Then I was thinking, based on what information you know about my area of expertise, what information should an attorney request in discovery? I was thinking in that sense as to how do I guide the attorney in requesting information.
Sure. So it depends on if I'm the lawyer retaining that expert or the opposing lawyer to that expert. So I'm going to start with the opposing lawyer opposing that expert. One could imagine taking a similar process to take, say I'm a lawyer and I want to go against the expert, and I want to try to elicit and poke holes into that expert's testimony. I could take that expert's CV, maybe it's online, and take all the corpus of the writings that expert has, and then ask the large language model, what are holes in this based on this complaint? And based on this motion to dismiss, based on this motion, whatever. And then the large language model can essentially poke holes into that CV, and then that'll elicit, and then I'll say, okay, cool, now given these holes, give me deposition questions, or give me discovery questions, asking for documents related to those holes.
And so that's an excellent point, and that is part of the how might this be used against, how might these tools be used in trying to impeach your credibility or to question your knowledge or expertise. So,
and of
really,
course, so you could also shadow box on top of that, right? So that could be the
correct.
opposing counsel doing that. That could be me doing it myself, and then I could be ready for that when it comes.
Yeah, really great ideas. Folks, keep those questions coming. I see they're loading up. We're going to do about 10 more minutes of content here, and then we're just going to hop into Q&A for the remainder. So keep them coming. I think those were kind of our main use cases. There was one of my concerns, and you allayed this as this concern is really not necessarily a need for an LLM, but this is an issue that we've already faced for attorneys locating an expert's past reports. And then running them through checking for inconsistencies. Now, you tell me that this is an issue that they can do without, they don't need ChatGPT or anything like that to do. Your wife does it, I think, in education. But this is a concern for me, for my experts regularly, if you're using similar reports over and over. So
yeah, so one could imagine maybe I'm an expert that just kind of essentially copies and pastes the same report over and over again, just changing the facts for that specific thing, right? So one could imagine that this is something that you could just do a compare Microsoft Word to say, either I'm that expert that realizes, my God, I do the same thing over and over again, or your opposing counsel that does the same thing, running a diff between PDF 1 and PDF 100 if I have all your expert reports. This is something you don't need a large language model for. You just need like a PDF comparer, a red line extractor between version 1 and version 2. So that's option 1, is to use, good old-fashioned AI, redline extractor. But you could also imagine option 2 is, put something that has a large context window, like Gemini. Gemini has a 2 million token context window, which means you could essentially ingest the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Harry Potter series and still have some room left over. So you can ingest all of the reports from opposing counsel, from the opposing expert, and then be able to say, show me where across documents they use the exact same language. And then that's pretty damning to say, listen, you just copied and pasted these, you have 30 reports and 28 of them have just copied and pasted the same thing. That's pretty damning, and that uses a large language model to achieve a similar task. So yes, you could use good old-fashioned AI. Yes, you could use a large language model with a big enough context window.
And in that same vein, folks, that could be pretty damning if somebody uses that to impeach you. You may also want to use it. Okay, I see I've got 28 of these reports. We all know that you're seeing many of the same cases over and over and over. That's how expertise works. What you may want to do is use it to assist you in writing these reports with some differentiation, right? Okay, I see that this is very similar. How do I write this so that it doesn't, how do I rewrite this so it does not look like the same exact report? You don't want to alter the facts or your expertise or your conclusions or anything, but you don't want to have 28 of the same exact report sitting out there
That's
if you
right.
can avoid it.
That's right. And so that rephrasing is really one of the magical parts about large language models. And a good anecdote to be able to exemplify that is that I was asked to do the cover story for the Bench and Bar, which is a news legal magazine. I asked how long they wanted it to be. They said about 17 double-spaced pages, and I said, no way. I'm traveling all over the world. My rule of thumb is 1 page per hour, and I don't have 17 hours to devote. But then I realized, wait, this is about a large language model. So what I did is for every single article I've written over the last 25 years, I create an outline. And that outline is, bullets and sub-bullets saying, how do large language models work? So Damien, the human, created this outline, about 3 pages worth. Okay. And then I said, here's an outline, expand it into an article. And for each of the bullet points, create 1 or 2 sentences. And then it took my 3-pager and turned it into a 19-pager of really good stuff. But the thing is, I didn't end there. I then spent the next 3 hours adding, editing, revising, jamming with the machine with my human editor. So this is me collaborating with the machine. This is not me accepting what happened. And then I gave the output to the editor, and he said, oh my God, this is amazing. Let's get it out the door. So to be clear, he sent me the email at 5 p.m. saying, can you write this article? I sent him the draft at 8 p.m., and he said, let's get it out the door. So that took my 17-hour task and shrunk it down to 3 hours. And that's not a robot author. That's me jamming with the machine. That is me taking my ideas and then putting it. So the question is, who wrote my article, right? Because I, the human, created this 3 pages. Large language model couldn't have done that because the large language model hasn't been thinking like I have since November of 22. I've spent every waking moment thinking about how large language models are going to transform the law. So the large language model couldn't do that, and maybe nobody else on this could either. But the weird part, and this gets to what Nick was saying, is I asked it for 1 version of that article. I could have asked it for 1,000 versions of that article. I could have asked for 10,000, for 1,000,000 versions of that article. And it'll actually create 1,000,000 versions of this using different words for the same ideas. So this is the idea that ideas are valuable. The ideas you have in your expert reports, they're very valuable. But the expressions of those are commodities, because you can make 1,000 versions of that. You can make 10,000 versions of that. And by the way, ideas are uncopyrightable, and machine-created expressions are also uncopyrightable. So you have uncopyrightable all the way through. And I'll end with, this is a cartoon that is both funny and profound. The person on the left said, look, I took a bullet point, turned it into an email I pretend I wrote. And the recipient said, look, I took an email, turned it into a bullet point I pretend I read. So the question is, if it started as a bullet point, and if it ended as a bullet point, what's the point of the version, the email in the middle? Because there could be 1,000 versions of that email. There could be 10,000 versions of that email. There could be 1,000 versions of your expert report using different words for every single one. So if you want to avoid them saying, listen, you copied and pasted the exact same language in these last 30 reports, do what is done with the email here. Make a different version of this using a different phraseology, and then they're not going to be able to hoist you on your own petard that way.
Wonderful. Excellent stuff. Boy, there was one more item in there that you had sparked, but that I wanted to say on using that. The most important thing he said in that, though, that I want experts to walk away with: you could create 1,000,000 different versions of your expert report, but he focused on the human involvement there. So don't just print whatever ChatGPT gave you and turn that in without you editing, reading, and changing that report. That the human needs to be involved, or you may not like that final result that you get.
That's right. And that goes to, I usually say this to lawyers, and it's worth probably saying this to the experts on this call. These judicial orders that say you must disclose your AI use, those are going to seem very, very silly in a few years, because The AI is a moving goalpost. Spell check used to be AI. Before that, MapQuest, it used to be AI, right?
Right.
Before that, Excel spreadsheets used to be AI. It's only AI until you know how it works, and then it turns into software.
Right.
And so really, do I tell the judge, yeah, I use spell check. Yeah, I used Grammarly. Yeah, I used Westlaw's NLP. And when else have judges ever looked into the work product to say, yes, I reviewed that case that the paralegal gave me. Yes, I gave
Yeah.
that, because under Rule 11, I say as a lawyer, everything above my signature is true and accurate. And that's true whether a paralegal wrote it initially or whether the large language model wrote it initially. But yes, the buck stops here whether you're an expert or a lawyer.
Right. And as you kind of indicated earlier, is they're not asking you for to reveal your use of Microsoft Word in these matters, right? So it is just software. All right, folks, that kind of wraps our. Of course, Damien's full of information, so get questions in. We'll start going through them here, but that wraps sort of the initial presentation. Maybe later in one of these questions, we can get into a little prompt engineering for them, like a little prompt engineering 101. But let's see what they are asking. John asks, would it be possible to cite known fallacies such as locate potential indications of hindsight or confirmation bias? Give your chain of reason and link back to potential jury instructions of jurisdiction X.
That
That
is a
sounds,
great prompt. That's John. It looks like you are a prompt engineer in the making, if not in practice. That is a great prompt.
and that's probably a vLex prompt, right? That may not be a chat GPT. Chat GPT may not have jury instructions of jurisdiction X.
That's exactly right. So that's taking the importance of the prompt engineering, like John writes on here, with the grounded in truth content, the jury instructions, the case law related to these things. You need the case law. You need those jury instructions.
Excellent, excellent. Folks, you can also upvote posts that you see from other people here. So if somebody's asking a question that you want answered as well, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and those will move to the top. Fishel asks, what if in the deposition the opposing counsel asks a simple question? Did you use ChatGPT for any part of your analysis? What did you upload? And then one gets dismissed right there for protective order violation or breach of confidentiality.
Well, I guess so. That is a question. So, if there is a protective order, of course, it would depends on the language of that particular protective order. So, if the protective order says you will not use a large language model, then yes, of course, Vishal's point would be very true. If the protective order says you shall maintain confidentiality for that, then you have a discussion point. So you could be able to say, if I pay for the paid version of ChatGPT, and if that paid version of the ChatGPT's terms and conditions say that it maintains confidentiality and will not share it with others, then you've not breached that protective order, right? You've maintained it, just like if I gave my assistant, Nick Rishwain, my stuff, and I have an agreement with Nick that he will keep that information confidential. I'm not breaching that confidentiality if I give it to Nick. I'm not breaching the confidentiality if I put it up to ChatGPT. So, of course, always goes back to the protective order and what the protective order says.
And I think we did, Damien, we have something running in the background on the discoverability issue. Did we get
That's right. That's right. Let's take a look at what Vincent has said. I'm going to now share my screen again. Let's see what the answer is for that. So here is a 50-state survey. I'm going to close down legal authorities. So here you can see. All right. So uploading. This is Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. Would likely violate a protective order as it constitutes a disclosure to a third party not authorized under the terms of a particular. So this kind of query whether this is true because it hasn't actually seen the protective order. So it really is dependent upon the language of the protective order. So you can imagine the protective order says nothing about confidentiality. Then this wouldn't be true. But if this were true, here are actual non-hallucinated administrative decisions that relate to protective orders. Let's go to California and see if we have a more fulsome legal authorities. Here are 4 cases, difference between violation of any court order process. So anyway, so this is a relation of how people answers this question. This is actual non-hallucinated text from an actual non-hallucinated California case. This will 100% of the time be non-hallucinated, and this goes to the point of does the service you use have ground truth? This will 100% of the time be ground truth. This will 100% of the time be ground truth. And the reason I say 100% is because this is not created by a large language model. This is pulled from a database. This is pulled from a database. So anyway, so now I have this 50-state survey, and even cooler is I have at the bottom of this 50-state survey, I have a rows and columns where it says work product protection, attorney client waiver, discoverability of drafts. You have yes, no, et cetera. So here's now specific rules on ESI, et cetera. So now you could be able to do this 50-state survey. So we could, depending on your jurisdiction, we could go into details into these things, but this is maybe a good teaser.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that was vLex he was showing. Of course, vLex different from ChatGPT in that it pulls data from actual legal database. So it does have ground truth. Certainly, you got to know the terms and conditions of the software that you're using. So thanks, Vishal. Craig asks, if you were restricted to using only one, which would it be? ChatGPT, Claude, others?
I think that lawyers' best favorite answer is depends. It depends. So I would say that it depends both on the day. That is because they're essentially leapfrogging each other in talents.
Very competitive right
yeah,
now.
if you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said that Claude is going heads and tails above ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT just came out with o1, which leapfrogged Claude. So I would say it depends on where we are in this arms race between the two, the many models, so that's number one, time arms race. Number two is what is the thing I'm doing. So for example, if I need to upload War and Peace and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I need a long context window, I'm definitely going to be using Gemini, which has this 2 million token context window. If I don't need War and Peace and I can do just a shorter, then I'm going to want to do that with Claude or ChatGPT because I can make do with the smaller model. So it depends on where in the arms race we are at this particular moment and what is the use case for that.
Excellent. Mike asks, industry view of these tools. Will the expert be perceived as shortcut or lazy if they use these tools? I will answer, Mike, from my experience. I would love to find experts who are using these tools to improve their practice. I would love to find lawyers who are using these tools. The legal industry is a chronically less technologically savvy group, and not Damien, not myself. We're generally a little bit more. He's far surpassed my abilities in technological savvy, but from my experience working with experts, no, we're not going to find them lazy. Damien, your thoughts on this?
I agree with that, and I would say that if you're old enough, like Nick and I are old enough, you could imagine, are you lazy if you stop using a typewriter and instead use Microsoft Word? Are you lazy if you dictate something rather than typing at 70 words per minute? Being efficient with your time is not the same as being lazy. It's just using the tools that are available today that weren't available yesterday. There's a joke that are you using AI in it? 5 years from now, the answer is going to be, of course, I'm using AI because everything uses AI. And so this is not going to be lazy. This is going to be the status quo. And the question is, are you ahead of the status quo or are you behind it?
Yeah, I like that. Kyle says, you use ChatGPT to generate possible deposition questions you may be asked as an expert. Could you then take those generated questions and ask ChatGPT to provide answers based on the information?
That's a great idea. Yeah, you should totally do that. You could now say, now take all these questions and based on the source truth, that is my expert report and all the underlying cited reports, then now give me answers to these and give me good potential answers. So you can almost think of this as adversarial. That is, bot number one creates the questions, and then bot number two throws rocks at the questions, and then bot number three answers those questions. And so this is what's called agentic behavior, where you can essentially through adversarial processes, bot number one arguing against bot number two, come up with better answers.
Wonderful. Yeah, great information. Vishal asks it's not an uncommon question for lawyers and experts in this. The terms and conditions can change at a moment's notice on a website somewhere. It is impossible to keep up with them. Problem is that this will likely come up in litigation soon unless the legal community wishes to sidestep for convenience of everybody. Ideally, he says, wouldn't you need a totally personal LLM model that is not going to use one's uploaded case data for any public disclosure? And I'll try and break that into two, Vishal, as he answers this.
Yeah, so I would say that there is public models, that is, ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Gemini. All of those require you to upload a thing to the cloud and then get an answer that way. But then there's also private models. So Meta, Facebook, creates something called Llama. Llama you can download onto a laptop and run it completely locally. That is, you can unplug from the internet and run it completely locally. That satisfies any confidentiality concerns, right? You're not uploading anything to the cloud. You're just running it from a disconnected laptop and running it locally. And so if you're really, really worried about confidentiality, you can do this. Now, is Llama as performant as ChatGPT o1 or Claude? Maybe not. But if your risk appetite is outweighed by your need for security, you can maybe decrease performance in favor of security.
Yeah, that's excellent. Let's see. John says, could you talk to how with these LLMs you can actually create virtual? I think that's just
literal. Yeah.
Literal personas of experts, judges, etc. that you can invoke in a later time to shadow box.
Yeah, so that is ChatGPT has an app you can download on your phone, and so that app you can say, hey, I want you to play the persona of an expert who is deposing me, and based on these documents, and then it will actually literally be speaking to you with voice, and you can actually jam with it in that way.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any thoughts on AI deposition summaries?
It's really good at summarizing, better than humans.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Put in the transcript, Mike, and then and have it do a summary. Transcript should be public information. Folks, keep the questions coming. We've planned for another half hour here, so we've got plenty of questions. Also, if we don't have enough questions to fill up the next half hour, I do want to have Damien just do a brief on prompt engineering because he nails it.
Thanks. So sadly, I'm giving an international conference, and that they actually, I thought it was only going to be 1 hour. So sadly, I need to leave in 2 minutes.
Oh, he's got to leave in 2 minutes. No, yeah. Sorry, folks. We have an adjustment here. We'll wrap up. I'll wrap up after he leaves. Charles, and maybe we'll have him back if that works for you, Damien.
I would love to.
Okay. Can you recommend an AI course, training program, listserv, or website to increase his knowledge and abilities?
Sure. So Ethan Mollick is really good. He's a Wharton School of Economics. He's a professor that is, he's written a book called Co-Intelligence that is probably the best introductory to be able to start thinking through the use cases for any type of business, including expert witness testimony. So Ethan Mollick's Co-Intelligence is really good. And then there's why am I forgetting? Josh Kubicki is his name, Kubicki. He has really good things. Just search for Josh and AI, and he's got courses and he's got an email newsletter that are both really good for thinking how, in the legal context, these things apply.
He's a law professor, I believe, in Virginia.
That's right.
Joe asks, I'll get one more question, then I'll let you move on, Damien. Appreciate your help today. Joe asks, oftentimes, we receive documents in PDF and have to integrate into spreadsheets. What is the best GPT to foster accurate conversations?
I think any large language model, you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask Claude, you can ask Gemini, saying summarize these, providing in rows and columns. Provide rows of this and then columns of that, and then it'll provide. You can ask to have it in Markdown. That is the way that they can large language models can create rows and columns, and then you can copy those rows and columns into Excel or whatever you want. That's usually the easiest way. That's using the out-of-the-shelf models, and then vLex, actually, if you do that, every table you see you can download as an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file.
Wonderful, wonderful. Damien, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise on this. Good luck in the next platform or the next presentation you're giving. Folks, I will stay around for a few minutes. If you have some more general questions, go ahead and stick around and bring them. Otherwise, thank you for joining today, and we'll send you email follow-up with the replay.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And yeah, I'd love to come back, Nick. Have me back whenever you'd like.
Thanks, Damien. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. I'm glad. Oh, good. We're getting some good comments here, folks. Looks like this was good for you. Jerry telling us about Broadway. All right. It looks like folks are dropping off. Thanks everybody for being here today. We'll have to do this again. It looks like there are a ton of questions. So thanks. Stay tuned. We'll email you the replay. Have a great day.